It was 15 years ago that Amy and I got married. We dated for 3 years exclusively. After our first date, when Amy was a sophomore in college, my name is Mark Butler. I was junior A when Amy and I met at a party. We were an instant item, inseparable, till I graduated 2 years. Later, we were apart for Amy's senior year, as we had planned to get married after her graduation. About 6 months after we were married, we were at a party with several other couples. Our age, it was a barbecue with steaks on the grill, and plenty to drink as it got later in the evening. The crowd had whittled down to us and 3 couples sitting around a fire pit, drinking and talking. The topic of the celebrity hall pass came up. "What the hell is a celebrity hall pass?" I asked Sadie. A little blonde on my left spoke up. "A celebrity hall pass is just like it sounds. It is a game we play where you name the person you want to get a pass from your marital vows. You know, a celebrity you are allowed to have intimacy with. So this is just a game you guys play?" I asked. "Yes and no," Sty said, patting her husband on the leg. "Yes, it is a game that we play, but Tom and I have made an agreement that we will give each other one hall pass. Doesn't have to be a celebrity." I was shocked, for real. "You mean you guys have a standing agreement that you can go have intimacy with someone else at any time?" Tom looked me straight in the eye and laughed. "That's right, buddy. It is a little more than that. But that is the basic agreement." He pointed to the other 2 couples. "They have the same agreement. We all agreed the same night. Katie, you've used your hall pass." "Right." Katie put her head down. "Tom, you don't need to tell the world." "Yes, I was at a conference and I was working with this cute guy whose wife had just died in a car accident. I called Carl and told him I was going to use my hall pass to help the guy." Amy had been quiet, but moved closer to me, holding my hand. "Carl, you were okay with Katie having intimacy with another man?" "Oh yeah, I'm fine with it. She came home to me and I will get to use mine someday." They continued on with their game, naming who their celebrity hall pass would be. Amy prodded me into naming one myself after she announced hers. 15 years later, I couldn't remember who each of us chose, but I do remember the hot intimacy we had when we got home. Amy even admitted that when we were making love, she was picturing her fantasy lover with her. The next morning, I was very clear with her that I would never agree to a hall pass. Amy agreed that it was just a game. The events of that night faded from my memory. For the most part, we moved on with our life, Amy, and he quickly started a family, having a boy and a girl in quick succession. Amy and I stayed in touch with Sadie and Tom for a few years, but lost track of them after they divorced a couple of years ago. Iran into Tom at a bar. I just happened to stop in after work and saw him drinking alone. We had a drink while he told me that not only were he and Sadie divorced, but the other 2 couples from that barbecue had both divorced. The underlying cause of each divorce was the hall pass. Tom said that they each believed that the hall pass would allow them to experience excitement outside their marriage. With no effect on the marriage, Tom said they couldn't have been more wrong after each had used the pass. There were comparisons and suspicions. The suspicions led to contempt, which led to divorce. My conversation with Tom confirmed what thought the night at that party about the hall pass. It might be a fun game to play as a fantasy in their world. It doesn't work. I had intended to tell Amy about my run-in with Tom, but with our busy lives, it never came up. Sitting here now, I wish I had. It was a Thursday night with Amy, away at a conference in La at about midnight. My phone rang from Amy. The noise on her end sounded like she was in a club. I could hear in her voice that she had been drinking. "You're not going to believe it, but we met Joshua from my soap. He likes me, and I'm going to use my hall pass." The noise on her end got louder. What did you say? Did you say something about using your pass? Yeah, honey, I knew you would understand. See you Saturday. What the hell are you saying? Can you hear me? Amy, the call had ended. I quickly tried to call her back, but her phone went right to voicemail. I left her several messages telling her not to do anything stupid. I sent her several texts that there would be consequences, broke our wedding vows after hearing nothing from Amy all night. I tried several times in the morning, with still no results. Friday was a horrible day, not knowing what was going on with my wife in LLI. I took the kids to me parents' house after work. After dropping them off, I headed to Jack's house. Jack's wife, Jenny, went on the same trip with my wife. They worked together and were good friends. Jack met me at the door, surprised to see me. Hi, Jack. I need your help. I can't get a hold of Amy. When she called me last night, she sounded strange. Can you call Jenny to see if she knows anything? Sure, Mark. I'll call Jenny and tell her you here are looking for Amy. No, don't tell her I'm here. I'm afraid that Amy will have asked her to cover for her. Would you mind just calling her and bringing up Amy in the conversation and letting me listen without her knowing? Sure, buddy, they should be just getting out of the classes right about now. I don't know what possessed me to do it while Jack was getting out his phone. Is switched on the voice recorder. On my phone, his wife answered on the first ring. Hi, honey. You must have ESP. I just got back to my room after the classes. We have that dinner tonight, and I will see you tomorrow. The two talked about the conference for a bit. Then Jack brought up Amy. Have you seen much of Amy? Mark called me, leaving me a message asking if I had talked to you about her. Esh, don't tell him you talked to me. The last I saw of her was last night. We were all drinking. When this hot soap star came up to our table, Amy got his autograph and they danced a few times. We were sitting at the table when Amy said something about her, and Mark having a hall pass agreement, the soap star quickly jumped in, volunteering to be her P-mate. I tried to talk her out of it, but she said it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Amy whispered in my ear that she was going to let the guy have intimacy with her. Next thing I knew, she was arm in arm with the guy walking out of the club. I haven't seen her since. Couldn't tell Mark. Jack ended the call looking at me. Sorry, brother. Do you guys have an agreement about a hall pass? No, we played a game called Celebrity. Hall pass, years, say go. But afterward, I told her in no uncertain terms that I would never agree to such a thing. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know, but it won't be good on my way home. I stopped by my parents' house and asked Mom to keep the kids for the weekend. She could tell something was wrong, but I didn't tell her what. Back at the house, I tried a few more times, calling and texting Amy with no results. I assumed she had turned her phone off so as not to be bothered while she's sleeping with her soap star. Amy's flight would get her in by mid-afternoon. Jenny had gotten a ride from Amy, so I asked Jack to text me. When Amy dropped her off, I set up our video camera on a shelf in the living room where I would confront her. I wanted everything. She slipped the remote for the camera under my leg and waited for my wife to come home. I nearly jumped out of my seat when the garage door rumbled, hitting the record button on the remote. I tried to be as calm as I could. Amy bounded in from the kitchen with her bag in tow. Oh my God, what a crazy trip, she said with excitement. Yeah, I bet I have been trying to call you. My phone got broken. I dropped it and it just shattered. As calm as I could, I brought up her call to me late Thursday night. The last time I talked to you, I couldn't exactly hear you. Well, it sounded like you met up with a soap star and were using your pass. Yeah, we were at a club and Joshua Marrow came over to our table, you know, the star on my soap. We danced a few times and we got to talking about our hall pass agreement. Damn, he is so hot, he said. He wanted me to use my pass on him. That's why I called you. He's had all the hot actresses and he wanted me. Can you believe it? He took me to his house and, well, you probably don't want the details. No, no, tell me how he was intimate with my wife using his actor charm that has been with hundreds of other women. Amy still had no sense that I was angry. Oh yes, he was experienced. He knows his way around a woman's body. He said he took one of those pills. Damn, you are going to have to try. What, and he lasted forever. Damn, he was good, those stories. You hear about these stars being good at intimacy are true. Amy was just giddy, telling her story. Finally, she noticed the anger on my face. Mark, are you all right? She asked. No, I'm not. My wife is standing here in my living room confessing to adultery, and she can't contain her giddiness about having intimacy with another man. Adultery. What are you talking about, Mark? It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Joshua was my hall pass. I thought you would be happy. I got to live out a dream fantasy. A dream fantasy is that what you are calling it, I'm supposed to be happy. You broke our wedding vows. I didn't break our wedding vows. I took a weekend off to live out a fantasy. It was like, what? Our friends. Did I just used my hall pass? Amy's face was starting to show concern. No, Amy, that was just a game, and I was very clear that it was just a game. I told you I would never violate our marriage vows and would not stand for you doing the same. If you had the chance to be with a celebrity, I would be all for it. I don't understand why you can't just be happy. I had an experience I will never forget, she replied. Don't worry. I will never forget either. I'm sure the family that you forgot about will never forget either. I walked over to Amy, grabbing her hand. I pulled her wedding ring off her finger. Did you make love to him with your wedding ring on, still on your finger? You know, that symbol of our love and commitment to each other. We didn't make love, we had intimacy. Yes, I had it on. I was going to take it off, but Joshua wanted me to leave it on. I'm sure he did. He wanted to make a mockery of your marriage by being with, knowing you were a married woman. Amy stood with her hand on her hip. This was her angry pose. I don't know why you're making a big deal of this. It was just 2 nights. What do I need to take you upstairs to make it up to you? Thanks, but no. Thanks, let me ask you. Soap boy didn't use a condom, did he? Well, no, Amy was still angry, but now confused by my question. You let a man have unprotected intimacy with you that you believe has had with over 100 women, and given he is a TV star, probably some, men too wonder what Hollywood disease he gave you. He may have given you something else, unless you started using the pill again. You haven't been back on the pill, have you? No, I'm not. I don't need to, because you had a... Oh, God, Amy gasped again. Hey, just think you may be carrying a TV star's baby, I replied. Amy was clearly working the math in her head. No, I had my period last week, so I won't be fertile till later this week. It's interesting that you're only considering that now that soap star might have deposited enough to potentially reach an early egg. How many times did he not use protection with you, Mark? You are making too big a deal of this, she answered. Too big a deal, so you're saying I shouldn't make a big deal out of my wife committing adultery and throwing her family away. Amy was stamping her feet. I told you it wasn't adultery. I used my hall pass. I called you and even told you I was using it. There is the problem, Amy. You used something that doesn't exist. I never gave you permission to quit our marriage and destroy our family. Quit being so dramatic. I really thought you would be happy for me. I guess I was wrong. I'm done talking about this. Where are the kids? She asked. They are at my parents'. I didn't want them here when we discussed our divorce. What do you mean by divorce? You're going to divorce me over this? No, we are not getting a divorce. As calm as I could, I simply looked into Amy's eyes. You made your choice. Now I will make mine. That's ridiculous. You're telling me that you're going to throw away our family for this. This is not a big deal, and you're just going to have to get over it, Amy said, screaming at me. Done talking! I calmly walked upstairs to the guest bedroom, locking the door behind me for over an hour. Amy pounded on the door, telling me we needed to talk. Silence was my response. Getting up early, I was out of the house before Amy awoke. Driving to my parents' house, I found my dad up. While the rest were asleep, over a cup of coffee, I told Dad the whole story. Dad just listened, not saying a word, till I finished. When I got to the end, he simply looked up at me. What a cheating woman. Dad, can I ask you what you would do in my situation? Son, you have to understand, it was a different time when I was your age. It seems that this stuff is acceptable. Now, if your mother had done what your wife did, I would put a bullet in her head. But you have to do what you have to do, Dad. I don't think I can get past this. She knew how I felt about infidelity. Hell, I thought she felt the same way. What's with that prenup her mum made us sign? What was that all about? I asked Amy's mum about it at the wedding, but she just said she didn't want to discuss it. She said she had her reasons. Dad replied. Amy told me her mum caught Amy's dad cheating several times and wanted protection for her daughter. It seems Amy has forgotten all about that, my dad laughed. I'm sure you're going to remind her of it. Oh yeah, but not at first. You want to see what she does from here. She kept saying it was no big deal and I just needed to get over it. Dad, I truly, blowing up. Amy was calling and texting, wanting to know where I was. When I didn't answer, she called the kids. Julie, our daughter, walked into the kitchen, yawning. Dad, Mum wants to know where you are and why aren't you answering her calls? Honey, what did she tell you? That's funny. That is exactly what she asked me. She wanted to know what you told us. What is going on with your two? Are you cheating on her, or is she cheating on you? Damn, she is perceptive. Dad chimed in. Oh crap, Mum cheated on you, didn't she? I think you should ask your mother that question. I didn't want to be accused of poisoning her. I knew that Julie was going to be very upset with. Her mother, Julie, being an obstinate teenager, pulled out her phone, putting it on speaker. Dad's here. Did you cheat on him, Julie? What are you talking about? Whatever he said is not true. What did your dad tell you? He didn't tell me anything, Mum. I can read it in his face. You cheated on him, didn't you? No, I didn't. And if he tells you I did, it is a lie, Amy answered. Okay, Mum, you sound guilty to me. Julie hit end on her phone. Sorry, Dad, I can't believe she did that to you. I assume you're going to divorce her. You've always preached honesty and morality. I don't blame you if she cheated on you. Julie, with a somber look on her face, turned around and walked back upstairs. Your kid has a good head on her shoulders. Mature, way beyond her years. She'll get through this fine, Dad said. I'm not sure I will. Dad, I said. 30 minutes later, there was a loud knock at the front door. I heard Dad at the door. Amy, you don't want to be here right now, I'm sorry. But you are not welcome in our house today, Mr. Butler. I don't know what your son told you, but he made it up. I haven't done anything, whatever. You say, Amy, but you are still not welcome here. Tell him I didn't do anything, and if he says I did, it will be trouble for him. Amy stormed off. She seemed angry, I said to Dad. When he came back into the kitchen, be careful, son, I've seen that look. She is not going down easy. That woman is like a cat backed into a corner. She is going to lie and scratch her way out. I hope you can prove what she did. She looks ready for a fight. Amy gave me the silent treatment when the kids and I came home later. In the day, I slept in the guest room again. That night, there was no one pounding on the door. That night, the kids left for school. While I was still sitting at the kitchen table sipping my coffee, I decided that it was time to confront Amy. She walked into the kitchen like she didn't have a care in the world. The kids get off, okay? I nodded as she poured her coffee. Honey, why are you sleeping in the guest room? Are you feeling all right? You know why I don't want to sleep near my cheating wife? Cheating. Wife Mark, what are you talking about? She asked. So I guess you're going to deny that you had intimacy with a soap star while you were out of town last week. Mark, I don't know what you're up to. She turned, looking me in the eyes with an angry look. You accuse me of something you can't prove. I will make you pay dearly. You know you can't prove anything there. It is. You've declared war. I replied, no, I haven't. We can go back to the way things were, but that's up to you. I'm willing to forget your baseless accusation. Sorry, but I can't forget what you did. I replied, I'm going to say it again. I didn't do anything. And more importantly, you can't prove that I did. You will regret it. If you try to say, I did something, let it go and let's get on with our marriage. I knew a threat when I heard it. I didn't say anything, just got up and walked to me car as if I was going to work, having already called in to work sick. I drove down the street waiting for Amy to head to her school, where she was an associate principal. Once she was gone, I went back into the house, taking Amy's words to heart. I went into the house looking for evidence if this was going to be war. I wanted as much ammunition as I could get. Jenny had mentioned that Amy had gotten Soap Boy's autograph. She couldn't display if she was going to deny her affair ever happened. I figured something like that would be too big of a trophy to get rid of. She would hide it. It took 2 hours of searching, but I finally found it. I did. Amy had an old briefcase. In the back of her side of the closet, it was locked, but she always used the same code for her all briefcases at the bottom, buried under several folders. I found the picture. It was your standard publicity photo of the Soap Boy, the signature. Waist aim to my friend, Amy. Joshua Marrow on the back was another signature. It was signed, you were great in bed. Joshua. I scanned the picture before putting it back where it was. The next stop was the lawyer before leaving. I put a copy of the scan hour, prenup, the recording of Amy's friend's phone call, and my recording of Amy's confession on 2 flash drives. The lawyer I visited was well known for her ruthless attacks on cheating spouses. Vicky Sampson was known as the in the divorce world. I laid out my story about what Amy did. When I finished telling her the situation and how I wanted it to play out, she just sat back and smiled. I love this. You are evil set. The trap and spring it when there is no turning back. You know, it is going to be uncomfortable for you when before we show the proof, everyone is going to think you are lying or crazy. I know I want her to think she has the upper hand till the very end. Mrs. Sampson shook my hand. I will get the paperwork ready and have her served. At school, you need to do a couple of things for me. First, check your credit card. Bills. We need to find out the club where she hooked up with her soap star. Second, get access to her iCloud. I'm betting there is a selfie of her and Joshua. She is probably smart enough to get anything incriminating off of her phone and download it to someplace safe with some luck. A copy might still be on her cloud rushing home. I quickly got on her computer. I didn't even have to try. To get into her iCloud, hidden in her pictures folder were the 3 photos I was looking for, 2 of Amy and Soap Boy and 1 with Amy. Soap Boy and her friend Jenny. I copied the photos to a flash drive. A quick example. My nation of the photos gave me the other item I needed. The name of the club was on the wall. Behind them, my lawyer was very pleased with my findings. She told me under no circumstances was I to tell anyone that we had the photos. Her plan was to serve Amy at school on Friday afternoon. That would give me time to get the kids to my parents for the weekend. She also told me that I was not to move out of the house regardless of what Amy said or did. On that Friday, I had just dropped the kids off at my parents' house when my phone rang from Amy. I let it go to voicemail and ignored her texts. I wasn't home for 10 minutes when she stormed in. I was sitting in the living room and turned on the video camera when I heard the garage door rumble. I didn't want to miss any incriminating statements. "You son of a blip. What the hell do you think you were doing?" I started to answer, but she cut me off. "You just couldn't let it go, could you? Mark, is your little male ego damaged? You humiliated me in front of my staff, and you're going to pay. You want a divorce? I'll give it to you, but you are going to pay. You can't prove the adultery you put in the divorce, and without it, I'm going to take you for everything you have. I hope you're happy. You could have just let it go. Did it bruise your manhood that I had great intimacy with a celebrity? You could have just let me have a good time, but oh no, well, heck you." Amy stomped around all while I sat not saying a word. She came back into the living room with fire in her eyes. "When are you moving out?" "I'm not moving out. I'm staying right here," I replied. "Oh no, you're not. You won a divorce. You have to move out." She looked at me for a few moments, expecting me to get up, but I just sat there, smiling. "Fine, when this is over, you are going to wish you would have just shut your mouth and let us move on with our lives the next month." Was very tense in the house. Amy and I didn't talk. The kids were slowly going to Amy's side. Julie was even questioning if her mother had in fact cheated. She was telling anyone who would listen that I made the whole thing up. Her lawyer filed a response to our petition, asking for sanctions for false claims. She even tried to get the court to order me out of the house. That was denied. The court fast-tracked our hearing with both sides getting limited time to take depositions and interviews of witnesses. My lawyer deposed both Amy and her friend Jenny. They both denied that Amy went off with the soap star and denied that they even met him or went to a club preparing for my deposition. My lawyer told me that it was imperative that I tell the truth, but not volunteer any extra information. Her hope was that their lawyer wouldn't ask about the evidence we had gathered of Amy's affair thinking. We had none, just as Mrs. Sampson predicted. They hammered on me not witnessing any cheating by my wife, but didn't ask about having any evidence of her cheating. I got the impression that he didn't know that she had actually done what I was accusing her of doing at the actual court hearing, I'm sure. He thought things were going great. I testified to Amy's adultery, giving the background of my feelings on adultery and opposition to a hall pass. I was cross-examined on the same issues in the deposition. I wasn't present at her conference and didn't see her do anything with any other men. Amy testified that she didn't do anything, and like me, she was opposed to adultery and would never condone the concept of a hall pass. Amy's lawyer put Jenny on the stand to testify that the encounter with the soap star didn't take place. I looked over to her husband Jack, who was in the courtroom while she testified. He lowered his head to avoid my eyes. Jenny started to squirm when my lawyer questioned her about calling Jack and telling him that Amy left with the soap star, obviously nervous. Now she stuck to the story, saying it didn't happen. When Jenny sat down, both Amy and her lawyer had smug looks on their faces as the lawyer announced they had no further evidence. Amy's lawyer got up and started to argue that they wanted sanctions. For our false claims, the judge started to admonish my lawyer for not proving the claims. We put forth with a smile on her face. Mrs. Sampson stood up. "Excuse me, Judge, we have rebuttal evidence." Amy's lawyer snapped. I object. We haven't been notified of rebuttal evidence. We have no duty to disclose rebuttal evidence. If their witnesses told the truth, there would be no need for rebuttal evidence. The judge smiled and told Mrs. Sampson to proceed. Mrs. Sampson called her investigator to the stand. Judge, before we proceed, we are conceding that Mrs. Butler did not have intimacy with Joshua tomorrow. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but Mrs. Sampson gave me a look to shut up and wait. The lawyer put on her investigator, who testified that Joshua Marrow was in Europe the week of Amy's conference. Amy's lawyer shot up with this admission that my client didn't commit adultery. We are demanding we stop this farce and have the court issue sanctions on Mr. Becker. Mrs. Sampson, with a big grin on her face. No, we are not saying she didn't commit adultery. We are just saying it was not with Joshua Marrow. Jenny was recalled to the stand. My lawyer asked her again if she was with Amy at the conference, and if they had met who they thought was Joshua Marrow. She again denied it. Jenny was again asked if she had made a call to her husband, telling him that Amy left with a man, not her husband, even after being reminded she was under oath. Jenny denied she made the call. I turned to look at her husband, who mouthed, "I'm sorry." I mouthed back, "No, you will be my lawyer." Hit play on the recording of Jenny's call. Amy's lawyer shot up, objecting to the recording. Judge, my client was an invited guest in the witness home and allowed to listen in on the call. The judge told the lawyer to sit down and ask Jenny if that was in fact her voice. She had no choice but to admit that it was. I was starting to feel vindicated when there was finally evidence that I was telling the truth. Amy was recalled to the stand. Amy again denied that when she came home from her trip, she admitted having intimacy with another man. She let out a loud gasp when the video of her graphic description of her intimacy with Joshua Marrow was played. Amy was in tears when the selfies and the signed publicity picture were put into evidence. As Amy walked from the witness stand, the judge interrupted. "Counsel, I'm confused. You said that Mrs. Butler did not have intimacy with Joshua Marrow, but you've just presented evidence that she did." Mrs. Sampson recalled her investigator. "Judge, our evidence proves that Mrs. Butler committed adultery, but just not with who she thought." The investigator put up surveillance photos from the club. Several pictures showed Amy and the man she left the club with. As indicated in the photos, this is not Joshua Marrow. He is a lookalike who likes to pick up married women. He is a known man who had been diagnosed with several STDs. I just had to look over at Amy. At that point, the look of shock on her face was priceless. After a short recess, the judge returned to the bench. He gave a long speech about honesty and faithfulness. The judge ruled that Amy had committed adultery as spelled out in the prenup. He ruled in my favor, upholding the prenup. The judge lectured Amy that even if there hadn't been a prenup, he would have awarded me custody of the kids on the record. He found Amy to be an unfit mother for her extensive attempts at deception with. Tears in her eyes, Amy turned from the counsel table to leave. The judge bellowed from the bench, "Mrs. Butler, stay put. We're not done yet." The judge summoned Jenny to the bench to join Amy. "You both raised your right hand and swore to tell the truth. In my courtroom, that oath is sacred in this building." He looked right at Jenny. "I don't care if you have some misguided belief that you are helping your friend. Lying is lying in this courtroom. If this had been a criminal case, you both would be in jail right now. I'm finding that you both committed perjury, and I'm holding you both in contempt of court." The judge fined them both the maximum penalty of $5. Amy's bad day got worse when she walked out of the courthouse to a local news team putting a camera in her face. I found out later that my lawyer tipped them off. Mrs. Butler, do you have a comment on throwing away your family for a one-night stand with a fake TV star? The reporter's question was the straw that broke Amy's back. Amy let out a blood-curdling scream and then attacked the reporter. It was a blur of hands and feet as Amy struck at the reporter. Amy had her on the ground, pulling her by the hair. When a deputy deployed his taser, the cameraman caught the entire episode on video. Amy was on all the national news outlets that night. Sadly, Amy didn't get to see her finest moment. She was locked up in the county jail where she would stay for the next 6 months. No, I didn't have a beautiful blonde lined up to take Amy's place. I was too busy raising 2 kids as a now single parent. And no, I didn't reunite with Amy when she got out of jail, even though she tried. My mother felt sorry for her and asked me to give her another chance. She had lost her career and became the subject of ridicule throughout the town. After 3 months of Amy calling and texting me, I agreed to meet with her at her mum's home. Silently, I sat and listened to Amy tell me how much she loved and missed me. She missed being part of our family as a result of her arrest and conviction of assault. She was only allowed limited supervised visits with the kids. Amy said she was so sorry for lying about her hookup, as she called it, and was so embarrassed that it turned out she was conned by a fake. She finished by pleading with me to take her back, that she would be the best wife ever. I stood up and took a deep breath. Amy, that was an impassioned speech. I believe you mean every word. You apologized for lying. You said you missed our family. You said you love me. I believe you. I really do. It is what you didn't say that is most telling. You've never said you were sorry or even shown any regret for breaking our wedding vows. I think you were sorry that it turned out you didn't have your dream guy. I still don't believe you are sorry that you were cheating on me, or even that it was cheating. The answer to your question is no, and hell no. I will not take you back now or ever. I want you to stop contacting me, period. If you don't, I will renew the restraining order I was granted when you were arrested. Amy stood up, crying, I'm sorry, I enjoyed it. Is that what you wanted to hear? Amy, we're done. Go live. Your life, it will not be with me. I turned and walked out the door with Amy screaming at me, with her mum holding her back.
And so we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked,
make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the correct time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day. So click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.